This is the official Supercross Live pre-show fueled by Monster Energy. Kevin Barnett along with Jim Holley, as always, this week in Houston. And Jim, I want to start this week's show with a question about the track. Every week I hear some rider talk about the track and say there was one line out there, passing was really difficult, it was just hard to do. Last week, for the first time in a long time, I didn't hear that from anybody. Toronto, there was a lot of opportunity to get around people.
Well, I think Toronto presented itself. It was a little bit different. You know, normally it's ruddy. It was a little bit hard and slick in some spots, and guys could make passes. Here tonight in Houston, you're going to see some passes because this track here is excellent. The dirt here in Houston always traditionally really well because, you know, they don't get the weather like they get up in Canada here, and this dirt's stored outside. They have a lot of rodeos. A lot of things get mixed into this soil. It holds the moisture really well. It should be great racing.
Boy, with a rodeo, what things are getting mixed into the soil?
You can imagine what things I'm talking about.
Well, it comes down to championship points, and we'll start with the Supercross Lights East Regional class. Justin Barcia with a 28-point lead, a pretty commanding charge of that championship.
Well, the thing Justin Barcia has to do is command that lead and keep that 28 points, maybe build on it, and then try to take it in 2 weeks when we're in New Orleans on April 14th and try to wrap it up there before Vegas, that final round.
In the rest of that class, a lot of great racing to go on. Numbers 2 through 4 only separated by 15 points, and that's Wharton, Roxon, and Durham.
Well, those guys are close, and you know what? I don't know if they're going to catch Barcia. I mean, it's going to take a miracle to probably catch Justin Barcia, but for those guys to finish second and third respectively, that helps them for next year as far as negotiating rides because those guys have been up front. But the guy that I think that needs a win, and he needs it desperately, had a horrible weekend last weekend in Toronto, Blake Baggett. Blake Baggett's won a couple of these last year. He needs to try to finish out with these last 3 rounds to try to get a couple wins under his belt.
You talk about needing a miracle. I remember the last round of the West Regional class when we were talking about the control that Eli Tomac had of that class. All of a sudden he goes down and Dean Wilson right in charge. So anything can still happen in that class.
Well, we always say you got to wait till that checker flag's over, and it's not over for Barcia by all means, but I mean, he's sitting in a pretty good spot right now.
All right, moving on to that Supercross class. Talk about commanding leads. Ryan Villapoto, he's been in charge, 94 points ahead. Could, in theory, wrap it up on points this week.
Well, he's going to have a little help. I think James Stewart's coming back to Houston, which is a good thing for the fans and the riders and everything to have him back, but we don't know if he's 100%. That's the key. You know, if he finishes 5th or worse, then that's going to give RV1 enough points to have 100 points with 4 rounds remaining. He would wrap it up here tonight in Houston, but that's a big feat. I know he wants to try to wrap it up here in Houston because, you know, what a nice Easter present that would be to already clinch the championship.
Yeah, a week off and a championship trophy already in the case. Behind him, there is an incredible amount of racing to be done. 2 through 8 only separated by 32 points. And I'm taking Ryan Dungey out of that group just because we don't expect to see him back. But there's a lot of racing to be done for a lot of money.
Well, don't tell Ryan Dungey that, or KTM or Roger DeCosta. He'd definitely like to come back. Maybe if he's healthy enough to try to get a couple races before he starts that outdoor season. But the other thing is, I don't know how their contracts are set up, but when I was riding, yeah, 2nd and 3rd paid bonuses. So, I mean, that's going to be a great fight all the way to Las Vegas.
All right, we are your source for Supercross information all day long here in Houston. We'll have a practice report for you. We'll have the post show. Lots of rider interviews coming up here on supercrossonline.com. If you want to communicate with us during the day, do it. Tell us, will James be a factor here in Houston? Supercross Live on Facebook, facebook.com/Supercross Live, and twitter.com/Supercross Live. I'm Kevin. He's Jim. We'll be here all day from Reliance Stadium.